Kindly maintain decency to throughout the class. Okay. So, uh, mm, um, just to tell me, students, if you see the PowerPoint, if you see PowerPoint, just let me know. So it will be good for me. Can you see the PowerPoint? Why everyone
Yes, sir.
silent today? Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Um, okay, let me do it. Hmm. All right. So, just a second. Hmm. Technical issues. Just a second. My PowerPoint closed. Very good. Okay. Meanwhile, you just revise. So we discussed about the protozoans. In the protozoans, you know the basic classification. So protozoans are basically classified into two types: intestinal protozoans and blood and tissue protozoans. Whereas in the intestinal, we have four types of protozoans. We have amoebas, we have ciliates, we have flagellates, and we have the coccidia.
Sporo.
So yes, coccidia or coccidia. Okay. Spores. Okay. Anything correct. The spores of coccidia. And taxonomically, these protozoans are taxonomically classified into two major divisions. One is sarcomastigophores or sarcodines. So sarcodines means they don't have any shape. So shapeless creatures are kept in the sarcodina. Okay. Sarcodina contains amoebas, whereas
Yeah.
mastigophores. Masticophores will have symmetry, a body symmetry present to the masticophores. So that includes the what are those? The ciliates, flagellates, and sporozoids are present in the masticophora, right? So I will share the PowerPoint. You just give me confirmation and I will take the class. Can you see this now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yes, it is perfectly visible to you. I can understand that. Okay. So, all right. So just see the syllabus, students. So unit 1 is all about basics. Then in the unit 2, we have only four parasites in unit 2. So first one is Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica we already finished clearly. Will you agree with me? Do you have any confusions in Entamoeba histolytica? I hope not.
Sir.
Right? Hmm. Right, we discussed about the morphology of Entamoeba histolytica, the pathogenesis of Entamoeba histolytica. Then we discussed signs and symptoms, lab diagnosis, culturing the Entamoeba histolytica. So we have two types of cultures: polyaxonic culture and we have normal culture. So in the polyaxonic culture, we will include human serum as a substitute without bacteria to grow this particular Entamoeba histolytica, and it will cause the diarrhea in the patients, especially amoebic dysentery, and that is all about the Entamoeba histolytica. Then coming to the Mastigophora, so taxonomically, Mastigophora will contain the ciliates, flagellates, and the sporozoites. So here we have three important pathogens in your syllabus. We have Giardia lamblia, Leishmania donovani, and Trichomonas hominis. So Trichomonas hominis and Trichomonas vaginalis are two both same pathogens. Okay. So we have Trichomonas species, Giardia lamblia, and Leishmania species. So Leishmania species I will discuss in the next lecture. In today's lecture, I will discuss in detail about Giardia lamblia and the Trichomonas hominis. So first I will discuss about Giardia lamblia. Before that, let me do a quick revision. So as you know, this is the broad spectrum of classification of whole parasites. Typically, parasites are divided into protozoans and helminthes. Protozoans we have intestinal and blood, whereas then the intestinal we have amoeba, flagellates, ciliates, and coccidia. Amoeba, Entamoeba histolytica. Flagellates we have Giardia lamblia, ciliates, Balantiolum, coli, and coccidia. Now I will discuss about intestinal flagellate, which is Giardia lamblia. Whereas in the blood and tissue, once again we have amoeba, flagellates, hemoflagellates. So amoeba include Naegleria species, flagellates include Trichomonas vaginalis, and hemoflagellate. Other species include Leishmania species, Trypanosoma species. Okay. In your syllabus, they have given intestinal flagellate, which is Giardia lamblia, then blood flagellate, blood and tissue flagellate, which is Trichomonas vaginalis, and they have given one more thing, which is hemoflagellate, which is Leishmania species. So these are the three pathogens which are included in your syllabus. In your syllabus, you have Giardia lamblia, which is intestinal flagellate, and Trichomonas vaginalis, which is blood tissue flagellate, and Leishmania, which is blood tissue hemoflagellate. Is this clear? So I will discuss about Giardia lamblia and Trichomonas vaginalis, and Leishmania I will discuss in the next lecture. It requires a complete lecture, a 1 hour lecture required to finish this one. Okay, so are you following me, students?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. Okay, very good. All right. So this is the complete spectrum of parasites as we discussed. Then I'm not going to discuss about the basics, types of parasites or types of hosts. We finished this thing. Then we discussed about the taxonomically the parasite, the protozoans are divided into two types: sarcodines and mastigophores. So sarcodine include amoeba, mastigophores include the other three. Then we discussed about in detail about the in detail about the Entamoeba histolytica. So I'm not going in detail about the other things like the morphology, everything. We finished everything. Then oh my goodness, very good. I lost my PPT, students. I prepared another PPT, but I lost it. Ah, great, very good. Okay, so just wait. Let me try to open. Let me try to recover it. You know how to recover previous things. Open. Actually, I updated my PowerPoint, but okay. Okay, I need to start from the beginning onwards. Okay, students, it's okay, fine. Sorry for the disturbance. Actually, I kept a new PowerPoint extension of this PPT, but I lost that file. Anyway, leave it. No issues. So I will discuss about intestinal flagellate, which is Giardia lamblia. Okay, so Giardia lamblia is a intestinal flagellate. So first, let us write the family, everything here. So okay, so let us try here. So Giardia lamblia belongs to the phylum Mastigophora. So it belongs to the phylum Mastigophora. Okay, so it is a it belongs to Mastigophora. It is an intestinal flagellate. It is an intestinal flagellate. INTESTINAL. It is an intestinal flagellate. It is an intestinal flagellate. Okay, that means it has a flagella. So it is an intestinal flagellate. Okay, compared to the thing now. Let me discuss some interesting things about this Giardia lamblia. So the first scientist who discovered this Giardia lamblia is the scientist who invented microscope. Can anyone say who invented microscope? The perfect microscope? Huh? Who invented microscope? Anton van Leeuwenhoek, right?
Leeuwenhoek.
Very good. Anton van Leeuwenhoek discovered the first microscope. To be precise, the credit goes to one more scientist. His name is Hooke. Okay, Robert Hooke. Robert Hooke also prepared a microscope, but it is not as efficient as Anton van Leeuwenhoek microscope. Usually, the credit goes to the Anton van Leeuwenhoek, but the pre-discoverer is Robert Hooke. Anyway, that is a history. We need not to bother about the history. So let us stick to the Anton van Leeuwenhoek. So when he prepared his first microscope, he started looking at all the samples. So he's very curious on identifying microcosmos. So he's trying to discover the microscopic organisms wherever whatever he has, he will keep under the microscope and he used to observe. So similarly, he one day what he did is he went to the stool. Okay, he went to the defecation. Then he took a small amount of his stool and he kept that stool under his microscope and he started observing in his microscope. When he started observing in his microscope, he saw some devil-like creature. Some devil-like creature wandering in the microscope like this, and he was shocked. He saw that there is something alien-like creature present in his stool, and that alien-like creature is our Giardia lamblia. So Giardia lamblia has been first identified by our Anton van Leeuwenhoek only. So in Anton van Leeuwenhoek, in his tool, he discovered this Giardia lamblia, and he was amazed by seeing the complexity of this parasite. Okay, so he saw the beautiful flagella, he saw everything, and he was fascinated by seeing this Giardia lamblia. So it is the Anton van Leeuwenhoek who discovered Giardia lamblia in the year 1681. In 1681, Anton van Leeuwenhoek discovered this Giardia lamblia. Okay. Now, what does this Giardia lamblia do? What type of infection it will do? Since it is an intestinal protozoan infection, definitely it will cause intestinal infection. So our Giardia lamblia will cause intestinal infection. Particularly, the people who has this infection, those people will discharge green colored stools. They will discharge green colored semi-liquid or semi-liquid stools. Okay, the person who has infected by this Giardia infection, they will discharge green color semi-solid stools. Okay, and they will develop something called steroria. Okay, foul smelling stool. The stool will be really bad at smell. So they will their stool smell will be very bad. Okay, so they will discharge this foul smelly green color stool, semi-solid stool, and they will also develop nausea, lack of appetite, vomiting sensation, and abdominal pain. So these will be the typical symptoms of the giardiasis. Okay, the infection caused by Giardia lamblia is called as giardiasis. Giardiasis means Giardia lamblia infection. Okay, now it can only present in one host, which is humans. So it is the only host for Giardia lamblia is humans. Humans are the only host for Giardia lamblia. Okay, so humans are the only host for Giardia lamblia. Coming to the habitat, our Giardia lamblia particularly present in the duodenum and upper part of the jejunum of the intestine. It will present in the duodenum and upper part of the jejunum. So if you see the stomach, so this is a stomach. Okay, so immediately after stomach, it is connected to a bending pipe called duodenum. After this pipe, it will connect to a small intestine. So the superior portion of small intestine, the starting portion of small intestine is called as jejunum. The superior portion of small intestine is called jejunum, and the bending structure of the stomach is called as duodenum. So our Giardia lamblia present in the duodenum and jejunum of the intestine. So this is the habitat of our Giardia lamblia. So Giardia lamblia present in the jejunum and the duodenum of the intestine. Is it clear? So the habitat for Giardia lamblia is duodenum and jejunum of the human intestine. Okay, so human small intestine. Now, what does this Giardia lamblia do? It will see, as I said, it will cause intestinal infection. The patient will have smelly stools. Okay, and then let us discuss about the morphology of Giardia lamblia. So coming to the morphology, I will erase these things. Coming to the morphology of Giardia lamblia. Okay. Okay. So coming to the morphology, the overall length of this Giardia lamblia will be 14 micrometers. You already wrote this thing, right? So the overall length of the Giardia lamblia is 14 micrometers, and the breadth is 7 micrometers. Breadth is 7 micrometers. Okay, 7 micrometers. Then thickness will be 2 micrometers. Thickness means the thickness of this microbe will be 2 micrometers. Okay. Then on the top it will have a blunt structure, and on the posterior aspect it will have a sharp end. Okay, it will have a sharp posterior end, and top a blunt top. So on the top portion you will see two prominent discs, and the symmetry of this Giardia lamblia is called as bilateral symmetry. What is the meaning of this bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetry means if you take half of this protozoan, the other half will look like a mirror mirror in structure. So both half look like similar. So such type of symmetries are called as bilateral symmetries. Even humans are bilateral. You have one ear on one side and other ear on other side. So the mirror image of the other portion is called as such type of symmetry is called as bilateral symmetry. So our Giardia lamilia has a bilateral symmetry. It measures 14 micrometers in length and 7 micrometers in breadth. Then it has two sucking discs. So these are the two discs. You can feel like they are like a mouth. Okay, it has two mouth which will suck to the intestine. To be precise, if I keep a three-dimensional picture of this Giardia lamilia, let me keep it. Let me take a Google image. Just to give me 1 second. I will keep here Giardia lamilia morphology. Let me keep a 3D shape of this thing. Just a second. Actually, I prepared beautiful slides, but I lost that slide, students. It's taking too much time. 3D. See, now I'm unable to find those pictures. Giardia lamilia. Where is it? Come on. I got it. Just a second. Sorry for the inconvenience. See here. Got it. Okay. This will be the reality. So this will how it looks like. See, students, in this diagram we shown like this. How we are showing this diagram is from the bottom. If you keep your camera here and if you are seeing top like this, then it looks like this picture. Okay. So it has two suckling discs. So beneath this you will see two sucking discs. Okay. So these are two suckling discs. Are you listening, me, students? Students?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. These are the two suckling discs. So it has two suckling discs. So with the help of this suckling disc only, it will attach to the intestine, the wall of the intestine, especially in the duodenum and the jejunum. So it will bind, it will stick to the duodenum and duodenum and jejunal intestinal wall with the help of this suckling disc. Then it has another interesting feature, which is presence of parabasal bodies. It will have two parabasal bodies here. So these are called as parabasal bodies. So these are called as parabasal bodies. Parabasal bodies. Okay, parabasal bodies. It has two parabasal bodies. Then it has the flagellum. So it has two types of flagellum. So it has a posterior flagellum and it has a flagellum which is arising beneath from the suckling disc. So from the suckling disc, it has two flagellas and it also have two flagellas in the posterior portion of the tropozoid. Okay, posterior portion. So these are the flagellums, and then in the center of this in the center it has a midline. Okay, this midline will act like a vertebra to this parasite. Okay, and that midline is called as axostyle. That midline is called as axostyle. So it is called as axostyle. So at the end of this axostyle, it will have two posterior flagellum, and at the both the side of the suckling disc, it has another flagellums. Okay, so this is the overall morphology of the Giardia lamilia, and always keep in mind the protozoan eggs are called as cysts. Protozoan eggs are called cysts, whereas helminthes eggs are called as eggs only. But if you want to tell egg of a protozoan, then you need to tell it as a cyst. So, and okay, cyst means the dormant phase is called cyst, whereas the vegetative form is called as tropozoid. The normal vegetative form is called as tropozoid. It can be Entamoeba histolytica, it can be Leishmania species, it can be any protozoan. The vegetative state is called as tropozoid, whereas the egg is called as cyst. So these two terms you should not forget. So the eggs are called as cyst and the vegetative form is called as tropozoid. So this is a tropozoid. Okay. So this tropozoid has two suckling discs. It has a bilateral symmetry. It is 14 micrometers in length, 7 micrometers in diameter in the breadth, then 2 micrometers in breadth, and it has two parabasal bodies. It has an axostyle. It has posterior flagellum and the on both sides of the suckling disc, it has another flagellus. And this is all about the morphology. Then let us discuss about the cyst of this particular Giardia lamblia. This Giardia lamblia cyst looks like this. It looks like a bean-shaped cyst. So this is equivalent to the egg. Okay. So the cyst is bean-shaped cyst. Okay. This bean-shaped cyst has a cyst wall. It has a 2 layers of cyst wall. So it has 2 layers of cyst wall. So this is called cyst wall. So cyst wall, it has 2 layers of cyst wall. Then this cyst will be divided into, once again, bilaterally it will divide like this. So this cyst has been bilaterally divided into 2 types. Okay. So this midline is called as, can anyone say the name of this midline? What is the name of this midline?
Exorcist.
Yes, same axostyle only. So this is the axostyle of this egg. So axostyle, okay, axostyle. Then in the cyst, we will find quadrinucleus. That means 4 nucleus will present in the cyst. It has 4 nucleus. Nucleus 1, nucleus 2, nucleus 3, and nucleus 4. Okay. So it has 4 nucleuses in the cyst. Then let us see the measurements of this cyst. So the cyst will measure 12 micrometers in length. So it is 12 micrometers in length. It is 12 micrometers in length. Okay. It is 12 micrometers in length, and it is 7 micrometers in breadth, just like tropozoite only. So 7 micrometers in breadth. Okay. So this is the cyst. So cyst contains 4 nuclei. Okay. And then coming to the reproduction of our Giardia lamblia. Giardia lamblia will reproduce or divide by binary fusion. It will divide by binary fusion. That means, so this is one Giardia lamblia. Okay. It will divide it into 2 like this. So the body will divide into 2 types. So this is called binary fusion. With the binary fusion, one tropozoite will become 2 tropozoites. So it can able to reproduce by 2 methods, either by binary fusion in case of vegetative form, or by cyst. 4 tropozoites will be released by a cyst. During favorable conditions, 4 tropozoites will be released by a single cyst. So cyst is a dormant phase. So usually what happens is this Giardia lamblia cyst will present in any water or contaminated food. So through that food, when we take this tropozoite, this cyst will enter into our body. So a person will take this cyst, then in the intestine it will become a tropozoite, and it will happily live in the duodenum and jejunum of the intestine. And during unfavorable conditions in the intestine, it will keep this cyst, and this cyst will discharge in the water or anywhere. And the life cycle will once again continue. So any person drinking this contaminated water means he will once again, the life cycle will continue. So this is the life cycle of this particular cyst, Giardia lamblia. Then there is one particular test for detection of this particular Giardia lamblia, and that test is called as Entero test. So the test to detect Giardia lamblia is called as Entero test. This is the specific lab diagnosis, a very interesting lab diagnosis, and that lab test is called as Entero test. Entero, Entero test. Entero test. So what is this Entero test? What do you mean by this Entero test? So let me discuss about this Entero test. So as we know that if the patient has a Giardia lamblia infection, means definitely he should have Giardia tropozoites in the intestine. If he has this tropozoites in the intestine, how to collect the sample of a jejunum or duodenal sample? I need to collect jejunal and duodenal sample from the patient. In order to collect that sample, what I will do is, so see here, so this is the patient, okay, and this is esophagus. Then this is stomach, and this is duodenum and jejunum. So this is a duodenum, and this is a jejunum. Okay. So here what I will do is, I will take a capsule, a tablet, a capsule, but in this capsule I will keep a thread. I will keep a thread in this capsule like this. Okay. What I will do is, the end of this capsule, the end of the thread of this capsule, I will keep on the patient cheek, and I will keep a plaster. I will keep a plaster to this thread. Now I will make the patient to engulf the capsule. Now the patient will engulf the thread containing capsule. Sounds disgusting, right? But this is how we will do this test. Okay. Now we will make the patient to drink this tablet, the capsule that contain the thread. Okay. Now this capsule will go to the esophagus, it will go to the stomach, it will go to the intestine, it will go to the duodenum, it will go to the jejunum, and it will go to intestine. Right? Then I will keep this capsule for 2 hours in the body, in this patient body, for 2 hours. Okay, it will be really discomfort for the patient. What to do? Okay, so I'm sorry, 2 hours. Okay, I will keep for 2 hours this capsule in the patient body. After 2 hours, now I will remove this complete thread. I will remove this capsule from the patient body. Now I am assured that if there are any Giardia tropocytes, means those tropocytes will bind to this capsule, and that will present to the thread. Now what I will do is I will take a test tube. Okay, I will add a saline to the test tube, and I will suspend this thread in the test tube in this saline water. Then definitely tropocytes must float in this sample, in this saline water, right? In the saline solution there might be tropocytes, since I kept this tablet in the test tube. Then what I will do, I will centrifuge it. After centrifuging, I will take the sediment and I will prepare a glass. I will prepare a smear on the glass slide, and I will observe for the presence of either tropocyte cysts or tropocytes or cysts in the sample. If he has, means definitely that is positive for giardiasis. So this is the specific laboratory test we will do to detect this Giardia lamblia infection in the patient. Okay, so this Giardia lamblia infection will also cause malabsorption of fats. So fats cannot be absorbed. So the patient will discharge stool with fats in it. So such a stool is called steroria, fats containing stool, or sterols containing stool. So steroria is one condition. Then we have a specific media for growing this particular cyst. Okay, I don't know that media name. Let me check here. I don't know whether is there any media for this. No, there is no culture media for Giardia lamblia. We won't culture this this tropocyte. So directly we will do entero test and we will detect the tropocyte. So other than entero test, we have 2 other tests which include antigen detection by immunofluorescence test. So with immunofluorescence test, we can able to detect the Giardia lamblia antigen, or we can also detect antibodies in the patient sample by serological test. So Giardia lamblia specific antibodies can be detected, or antigens can be detected by immunofluorescence test. Then the treatment for this Giardia lamblia will be metronidazole. Only there are 4 or 5 parasitic tablets, and those tablets are enough for killing almost all types of parasites. So this is the major advantage for parasitic infection. See, all parasites can be curable. All parasites can be killed by a nice drugs. We have a very efficient drugs to kill almost all parasitic infections. One of the most common drugs we will use to kill any parasitic infection, especially the intestinal parasites, are metronidazole. Metronidazole is one of the efficient drug to kill parasites. So the treatment, the drug of choice for killing this Giardia lamblia will be metronidazole. Metronidazole. Most of the parasitic drugs will end with zole in the end. Metronidazole. So metronidazole is a tablet of choice for killing this particular Giardia lamblia. Then last and final will be the prevention of giardiasis. How to prevent this Giardia lamblia infection in the patients? Can anyone say any suggestions for me, student? How to prevent this infection in the population? What will be the best strategies we can tell me? Okay. Students, it's not audible. Students, are you telling the answer? What will be the best to prevent?
Water.
Yes, drinking purified water, avoiding consumption of contaminated water will be the best thing. Then we should not encourage any open defecation. There should be proper hygiene conditions for latrine purposes. So there will be always closed latrines, and latrine water should not discharge into the open drainage systems, and also proper storage of food and water. Proper water and food storage, proper hygiene latrines for the public, and also awareness to the public. So by awareness also we can able to decrease the chance of getting this giardiasis infection to the people, right? So this is all about the Giardia lamblia students. I'm really sorry, I lost my PowerPoint. I will directly show you some Google images. Then I will show you my own notes, and we can proceed to the next topic. Okay. So let me show you some Google images here. So yeah, students. So this is the cyst. So this is how the exact trophozoite looks like in a sample. So okay. So can you see this, students? Is it visible for you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, see here, nicely it looks like just like a face. Yeah, this is just looks like a joker face, right? A smiling joker face. I used to feel like that. So this is the trophozoite, and this is the cyst. So cyst will have 4 nuclei in his cytoplasm. If you stain it, you will see a prominent suckling disc, and you will see a parabasal body. So presence of this suckling disc and parabasal body, you can say yes, it is a Giardia lamblia. So just like a smiling face, okay, a smiling killer, idiotic killer, intestinal killer. Yeah. So this is the Giardia lamblia, and let me show you the pathogenesis of Giardia lamblia. Pathogenesis of Giardia lamblia. Everything straightforward. That's why I'm not taking much time. Okay, very easy only to understand this infection. Let me take this one. Too much small. Okay. See, if you consume any contaminated food or water through your hands, the parasite will enter into the mouth, and the parasite cyst will enter into the stomach. In the duodenum and in the jejunum of the small intestine, the cyst will go excistation. Excistation means from cyst to trophozoite is called as excistation. So after excistation, the trophozoite will live happily in the small intestine. After certain unfavorable conditions, during unfavorable conditions, the trophozoite will go to the encystation. That means it will become a cyst, and this cyst will be discharged in the feces. Whoever touch through this, the cycle will continue. So contaminated cyst water will consumed by someone, and the life cycle will continue. So this is how called the pathogenesis of Giardia lamblia. So a straightforward steps. So trophozoite present attached to the mucosa. Nothing is not looking good. And I will show you that Entero test. So see how this Entero test looks like. So Entero test for Giardia lamblia. So Entero test means, see, this is Entero test. See here. As I said, we will. Can you see here? So this is a thread through. We kept a plaster and we attached this thread to the cheek, and we allowed the patient to engulf the capsule. So inside the capsule there is thread, and it will engulf inside the patient, and we will wait for 2 hours. After 2 hours, we will suspend this test in a test tube, and we will go for detection of trophozoites of the Giardia lamblia. So this particular test is called as Entero test. So this is the capsule, and it contains thread inside the capsule. So this is called Entero test for detection of Giardia lamblia. Okay, so this is called Entero test, and now I will show my own notes to you. Okay, now let us try to see my notes, and you can read it directly. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Let me open my notes here. Okay. Can you see the PDF, students, here? Can you see the PDF? Is it okay for you to teach like this? I'm sorry, my PowerPoint I lost. Is that okay? Next time I will prepare PowerPoint, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, see here. So as I said, a brief introduction to Giardia lamblia. So if you know the taxonomy, the introduction will be very easy. We already know that protozoans are two types: intestinal protozoans and blood and tissue protozoans, right? Right. So intestinal protozoans include Giardia lamblia, Trichomonas vaginalis. I'm sorry, actually Trichomonas vaginalis is blood and tissue. I think there is a wrong here. Okay, Trichomonas vaginalis is blood and tissue. Anyway, just don't mind it. Then what we discussed. So intestinal and oral genital flagella. So Giardia lamblia is an intestinal flagellate, and it is first discovered by Anton van Leeuwenhoek in 1968 in his own stools. Okay, then the later there is a professor called God, and this God said that this Giardia lamblia is responsible for steruria and some intestinal infection. So first discovered by Anton van Leeuwenhoek, but the correlation with the disease is proposed by our God. So his name is God. Okay, Professor God said it will cause. Okay, so our God and another Professor Lamb. So Professor God and Professor Lamb said that it will cause intestinal infection. So that is why it is called Giardia lamblia. Okay, Giardia and Lamb means they are two person names. Professor God and Professor Lamb proposed the infection of this Giardia lamblia. Okay, now I got it. So Professor God and Professor Lamb discovered the infection of this Giardia lamblia. That is why it is called Giardia lamblia, and it will present in the duodenum and in the upper part of the jejunum of the small intestine, and only protozoan will present in the lumen. Okay, so okay, it is the only protozoan infection that will present in the small intestine of the human. We have many parasitic infections. One will be in the small intestine, one will be in the large intestine. So our Giardia lamblia is the only protozoan infection which will be present in the small intestine of the person. So that is all about this. Just a second. Hello. See, I'm in the class. Just tell me. Yes, yes. Tell me first. कौन सा results? कौन सा exam results? Okay, for that you need to discuss with HOD sir. Okay, he will guide you. Yes, yes. Please call to HOD sir immediately. Okay. All right. Sorry, students. Anyway, then what we have, this tropozoite will, the Giardia lamblia will reproduce by binary fusion, as I said, and it does not spread through bloodstream. Okay, it won't cause any blood infection such as our Entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica will cause extraintestinal infection, but our Giardia lamblia cannot cause any extraintestinal infection. And also the tropozoites are anaerobic in condition. Keep in mind, students, most of the intestinal infections or intestinal microbes can survive in anaerobic conditions because there is less oxygen available in the intestine, and most of the tropozoites, the protozoan tropozoites, will be anaerobic in nature. So usually they will be facultative anaerobes. Okay, so our Giardia lamblia is a facultative anaerobe, and infection occurs due to ingestion of the cysts. Then coming to the morphology, we have two types of morphology: tropozoite morphology and the cyst morphology. So this is the tropozoite. So the anterior end looks like round and broad, and the posterior end looks pointed, and it has two succulent discs. Okay, and it has a dorsal surface and ventral surface. In order to understand the dorsal and ventral surface, you need to know the three-dimensional structure of this Giardia lamblia. The top and down. Okay, that the down portion and the top portion. So down portion is called dorsal and the top portion is called ventral, right? So so ventral will be concave in shape and the dorsal portion will be convex in shape. I think I said wrong here. Let me arey yaar. Okay, I cannot use marker here, students. Leave it. Anyway, the dorsal surface looks convex and the ventral surface looks concave, and the overall length is 14 centimeters and the breadth is 7 centimeters. It has succulent disc, it has flagella, it has an axostyle, and it has parabasal bodies, and it will reproduce by binary fusion. And coming to the cyst is 12 micrometers in length and 7 micrometers in breadth, and it has 4 nuclei, and it has axostyle and the parabasal bodies. Then coming to the life cycle, so in the life cycle it is very straightforward. So the patient will The patient will ingest this trophozoites. It can be either trophozoites or it can be cyst. Okay, so the trophozoites or cyst will enter into the lumen of the intestine. Okay, then in the lumen, the trophozoites will undergo binary fusion. That means multiplication of protozoites will happen. So there will be many Giardia lamblia in the small intestine. Then after that, during unfavorable conditions, these trophozoites will convert to cyst, and this cyst will discharge in the discharge. Okay, see here. So during unfavorable condition, encystation happens. Encystation means the trophozoite will convert to cyst, and infection in man occurs due to ingestion of cyst. So if anyone take this cyst, okay, this cyst will discharge in the stools or in the water. Then this cyst will be engulfed by another person, and infection occurs due to ingestion of this cyst. Then this cyst will once again go for excistation. That means this cyst will becomes once again a trophozoite, and this trophozoite will present in the duodenum and in the lumen, in the jejunum of the intestine, and it will cause diarrhea and intestinal infection, and the life cycle will start again. So this is the simplified life cycle of this Giardia lamblia. Then coming to the pathogenesis, it will cause malabsorption of fats, it will cause malaise, diarrhea, steruria, greasy and foul smelling green color stool, and also person will lose weight because of loss of fats in the stool. The person will lose the weight. So these are the pathogenesis and signs and symptoms of Giardia lamblia. Coming to the lab diagnosis, this cyst, both the cyst and trophozoite can be detected by saline wet mount. So simply by saline wet mount, we can able to detect this Giardia lamblia in the patient sample. So the ideal sample of choice for detection of this Giardia lamblia will be always the stool sample, or we can do a specific test called Entero test. You already know what is Entero test. So here we will keep a gelatin capsule, a capsule containing thread, a nylon thread. We will keep one end of this nylon thread, we will keep to the cheek, and we will plaster it. Then we will allow the patient to drink this nylon thread, right? So after engulfing this nylon capsule, we will wait for 2 hours. Within 2 hours, after 2 hours, we will suspend this capsule in a saline test tube, and we will go for detection of the trophozoite in the sample. So this is all about the Entero test. Then antigen can be detected by immunofluorescence test, or antibodies can be detected by serological test. Then treatment, the best drug of choice for Giardia lamblia is metronidazole or titinidazole. Okay, so these are there are 3 drugs for treating this Giardia lamblia infection. One is metronidazole, other one is titinidazole, and other one is fluoridine. Okay, these are the 3 drugs for treating Giardia lamblia infection. And the best preventive strategies include proper discharge of human feces. That means proper hygiene practices, the lavatory hygiene practices. Improper personal hygiene will cause this. Okay, why this improper personal? Okay, even improper personal hygiene will result in getting this Giardia lamblia infection. So that is why always proper personal hygiene is important. By proper personal hygiene practices, we can prevent this infection. By proper disposal of human feces, we can prevent this infection. And also by proper storage of food and water, we can prevent this infection. So this is all about Giardia lamblia. Any doubts in this topic? No, right? Shall I continue to the next parasite, students? Okay, I will give a brief introduction. In the next lecture, I will discuss about Trichomonas vaginalis. So let me discuss about Trichomonas vaginalis. Just like it is also a mastigophore. That means it is a flagellate which is present in the tissue and blood. Especially it will be present in the vaginal cavity of the female. And here we have 3 types of Trichomonas species. Okay, so we have 3 types of Trichomonas species. We have Trichomonas vaginalis, we have Trichomonas tenax, and we have Trichomonas hominis. So these are the 3 types of Trichomonas species. We have Trichomonas vaginalis, Trichomonas tenax, and Trichomonas hominis. Now, when we say Trichomonas vaginalis, it doesn't mean always infect women. It will also infect males due to sexual intercourse. Okay. In the males, it will cause urinary tract infection, whereas in the females, it will cause genito-urino infection. In case of women, the Trichomonas vaginalis will cause genital infection, genital tract infection, whereas in males it will cause the urethral infection, urinary tract infection. Okay, so this is the Trichomonas vaginalis, whereas Trichomonas tenax will cause oral infection. Trichomonas tenax will cause oral infection. Okay, whereas Trichomonas hominis will cause ileocecal infection. Ileocecal infection means it is once again intestinal infection. In the ileum of the intestine, it will cause jejunum, ileum. I hope you remember, right? So it will cause ileum infection. That means lower small intestine infection. Upper small intestine, lower small intestine. So T. hominis will cause lower small intestine infection, whereas the T. vaginalis will cause genitourino infection, whereas T. tenax will cause oral cavity infection. Okay, so coming to the morphology of this Trichomonas vaginalis, the overall shape of this Trichomonas vaginalis looks like a bean shape. So it is a bean shape, and it has a single ovoid nucleus. It has a single ovoid nucleus, and it has an axostyle, a midline, and it is not bilateral symmetry. Keep in mind, unlike our Giardia lamblia, it is not bilateral symmetry. It has only one nucleus. Then it has a thick flagellum at the posterior end of the tropocyte. Then the overall length of this tropocyte is 30 micrometers and the breadth is 20 micrometers. And it has a costa. Presence of costa is a characteristic feature to identify Trichomonas species. Presence of this costa-like structure. So presence of this costa is a identification feature for Trichomonas species. Okay, so this is the costa. Then it looks the overall shape will be pear shape. Okay, pear shape. And the only difference between Trichomonas vaginalis, tenax, and hominis is very minor difference only. Okay. The major thing is vaginalis will cause urinogenital infection, tenax will cause oral infection, whereas hominis will cause ileocecal infection. Right? And the movement of this Trichomonas vaginalis is very important. If you see the trophocyte movement in the sample, it will show jerk movement. It will move like a jerky like means it will move like this. The way my cursor moving, it will move like my cursor. So that particular movement is called jerk movement. Or I will show you the image. See here. Tricho. Actually, I prepared this PowerPoint, but I lost it. It will have a jerky movement. Okay, so that is how the Trichomonas vaginalis looks like. It's taking too much time. See here. See, you can see a jerky movement. See, so clearly you can see an axostyle and a pointed, very pointed posterior flagellum. So there is a single pointed posterior flagellum, and there is a nice jerky movement. And you can also see a costa now and then. So a costa is visible and it is going. So costa you can see at the periphery, and you can also see a small nucleus. Okay, so this is the Trichomonas vaginalis. So this is how a Trichomonas vaginalis looks like. Here also we have Trichomonas vaginalis. See here, a nice pointed, it is transparent, pointed flagellum and costa. So this is Trichomonas vaginalis. Okay, so a very straightforward pathogenesis. It will cause intestinal infection. Okay, and you have only the difference. You need to know the difference between tenax and the hominis. In your syllabus, they have given hominis actually. So they have given hominis. Hominis will cause a intestinal infection. Okay, ileocecal intestinal infection. It will cause ileocecal infection. The culture. So culture of this Trichomonas vaginalis will be done in a specialized culture called CPLM culture. So what is this CPLM culture? So CPLM stands for cystine peptone liver maltase medium. So in this cystine peptone liver maltase medium only we will grow this particular Trichomonas species. And for molecular diagnosis, you can do PCR. For prevention, always have a protective sex. That's it. So using of condoms or using of the cervical cap or proper oral hygiene is very important to prevent one from the Trichomonas infections. So proper sexual practices is important to prevent from this Trichomonas infections. And the drug of choice, metronidazole. So most of the parasites can be killed by metronidazole. Okay, so metronidazole is the drug of choice for killing this Trichomonas. So this is it, students. This is all about the Trichomonas. Let us see a short YouTube video on Giardia lamblia. Then we can end this class. Okay, so let us see some animation of Giardia lamblia. So then we will get some a nice idea. Learning parasites will be just like watching stories, students. So parasitology will be really interesting. It won't look like we are studying, rather than it will look like a understanding a story. So let us see Giardia lamblia. Giardia lamblia life cycle. Let us see this animation and we can finish this lecture. Okay. Why these lectures? I need an animation. Animation. I don't want other lecture videos because I already said it. Is it animation? No. Is it? See, I'm not satisfied by this. So see this one. I think it's not in English, but still it's worth to see an animation. Are you listening, students? Is it boring?
No, sir.
No, right? Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Boring. Someone said yes. Can you hear the sound?
No, sir.
I don't know why I'm unable to keep. There is no that thing. Anyways, just see here. So a dog drinking water, I think they are showing animal Giardia infection. So from the dog, the water has cyst. So this is a Giardia cyst, and this Giardia cyst entering into the person intestine. Here you can keep dog in place of dog. You can think a human. So cyst entered into the intestine, and a cyst became a tropozoite. So this is called excistation. Then this became a Giardia tropozoite. You can see nice suckling disc, and this will bind to the duodenum and jejunum of the small intestine, and it will cause intestinal infection, right? So it will feed on the intestine. During this time, the patient will get anorexia, nausea, malabsorption of the fats, stomach pain. All these things will happen during um, during unfavorable conditions. These tropocyte will convert to cyst. So this is called encystation. So it became a cyst, and this cyst will be discharged in the stool, and from the stool, once again the life cycle will start from the beginning onwards. So in the stool you can see the cyst, the quadrinucleated cyst. Now if there is any rhine or anything, this stool will be discharged into the water. From the water you will get the infection. So if you see this parasitology, hereafter you won't touch anything. So now a happy little person playing with a ball, and he don't know that there are cysts in that ball. And during that, someone will buy him a chocolate or ice cream. He will touch the ice cream, and the cyst will enter into his body, and he will get the Giardia infection. So this is how the parasitic infection will go. So is this clear? Is Giardia lamblia clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I think we also finished the Trichomonas. Maybe in my next lecture, I will take some 10 minutes to finish Trichomonas, and we will discuss the Leishmania species. I think Leishmania is pending in the syllabus. Then we can move on to the third unit. In the third unit, I think we have malaria. That will be really interesting to study. So thank you very much, students. If you have any doubts, you can ask me now. Any doubts in today's topic?
No, sir.
All right. Okay. So, okay. Thank you very much. Sorry for the inconvenience because of lack of PPT. Okay. So, yes, you can leave, students. Thank you very much. I downloaded your attendance. Yeah. See you.